What's up, world? It's your boy, Mike Muse. Welcome to the Conversation of Mike Muse Show. I am so excited to be in conversation with you. It is awards season. You guys know I've already kicked off interviewing some amazing talent and actors as they vie to get your attention for this award season to bring home some statues. This is my favorite time of the year. As a journalist, I have 3 Super Bowls. One, obviously, the Super Bowl, which I love to cover. The second is a presidential election. I love coming to you during the primary season, but in particular that faithful day in November when we get a chance to discuss all the entrance pollings, the exits pollings, and then really be able to determine who will be the next president of the United States. There's nothing more special than that. And then the third Super Bowl for me is the Oscars. I break that down into 2 ways. One, the Oscar morning coverage, and then 2, the actual coverage of Oscar Day itself. There is nothing like film. As you all know, it holds up a mirror to society and helps us peel back the layers of what is happening in our times and to really discuss all the different social constructs. And what I am most excited about is I have 2 very special guests here with me today. They are here to represent the 55th annual NAACP Image Awards. I am so excited for this show. I have been at this show many times, and I'm so excited to see the growth of this award show. I'm so excited to see all the Black excellence that is represented across so many different categories and genres. I am really excited that we give attention to Black excellence, and I'm even more about how Black excellence shows up. And the way they do their nominees luncheon is just so special. It's such a treat every time I get the chance to go there. But I've been really excited by what's been happening with the NAACP, and I know President Derrick Johnson is going to correct me on the language on how that name should be pronounced. But I'll let President Derrick Johnson talk on that one about that and possibly critique me, which is fair into itself. But we are entering a critical time in our nation. It is time for our democracy to be in action, and I think there's no better way into how pop culture and really Black culture helps moderate that discourse. So enough of me. I want to get to some very special guests. First up, we have the president and CEO of the NAACP, Mr. Derrick Johnson. What's happening, President Johnson?
Hey, great to be here. Thank you for taking this moment to recognize the real Oscars. It's the Image Awards.
That's
the only Oscars for the Black community.
Talk your stuff, President Johnson. I knew I liked this guy. I had the chance to see him a few years ago. I think he had just got announced. We were down in Florida for the Young People Summit for NAACP, and I heard him speak, and I was like, okay, a change going to come. I like this guy. And the newly announced nominee for her first NAACP Image Awards for Outstanding Breakout Performance, the incredible, the dynamic, the talented Phylicia Mpasi. What is happening?
Hi, thank you for having me.
How you feeling?
I feel amazing.
Yo, how's it
what a morning.
Nominated for an Image Award?
It's an honor, an absolute honor, for my people to recognize me and recognize the work that I'm doing is fantastic. And I was surprised on air. I had no idea it was coming. And I'm just so excited. And it's been such a great day.
How did you find out? What were you doing? Were you pretend sleeping?
No.
I love how you actors always like, oh, I had no idea the day was even coming.
No, well, we were over at CBS doing the announcement, and I just noticed President Johnson was given paperwork I wasn't given. I just like, what's going on? I don't quite understand. And then I understand now why they're keeping me in the dark about certain things. They surprised me on air while they were doing the nominations.
Wait, you heard your name on air live on CBS this morning.
Yes.
That had to be so exhilarating.
Yeah, I'm glad I was in full glam.
Yeah.
It wasn't in my bonnet or something.
Yeah. And it's for the Fro Asili that you did in The Color Purple.
Sorry?
The
What was the first part of your question?
It was for the role that you did. The way you did it, oh my God, am I like wrong?
No.
I was like, I know I saw the movie, I saw you, right? Okay.
No, literally my head is still spinning and buzzing, and there's just
You're on a high
going on. Yes.
Well, I'm here to protect you and to guide you. You just be great.
Well,
you don't worry about the tough questions.
Thank you.
I have you for that. Were you nervous to step into such a really iconic role?
Absolutely. Yes. But knew I was meant to do it. I knew it was purposeful, and always it was so much bigger than me. I, especially in this reimagining of the story, there's a reason they wanted to enhance the music side of it. There's a reason they wanted to really showcase a lot of the joy and the fun empowerment spirit of it. And I knew going into that, we had a lot of conversations on how important that was and the responsibility that I had to kind of really emphasize that in the beginning. So when Fantasia takes over, that arc means so much more when she comes full circle and sings, "I'm here."
I felt like this angle was a redemptive story.
Yes.
And about the power of forgiveness.
Yes.
Which took me for a loop, actually.
Yeah.
So I was such a fan of the original one. I also saw the musical too as well. So I wasn't expecting uptick of joy. Why do you think you guys went joy on this one?
I think so often with The Color Purple, people just relate it to trauma and they relate it to hardship. And I think what people don't understand, especially about Black people in general, is through that trauma and hardship, there is joy. They always can find the light at the end of the tunnel. There's always, a redemptive arc to it. And I think what's so beautiful about this telling of it is you're seeing that in real time. You're seeing like a new version of a hero, and that is Celie in this story, where her heroic moves and her actions are so simple, but they are changing. She changes the life of Sophia just by bringing dinner in the jail cell. Shug for the first time is feeling loved in her life. And it really goes to show that sometimes the most powerful things are the tiniest things we do every single day for each other.
Well, President Johnson, I'm coming to you because I think that the civil rights movement is always about agape love. The civil rights movement was really rooted in the church. And I'm even curious, well, I'm not even curious, I'm always fascinated by, during that time period, how civil rights leaders and those who were on the front lines always found joy, whether that was through song, the soundtrack of revolution, whether it's through the incredible hymns that they sang in the church, like for their rallying cries. And there's also too this immediate moment of forgiveness, even to their oppressors. Can you talk about how joy was part of the North Star in the civil rights movement? I think that's why it's reflective in The Color Purple.
Well, it's rooted in our belief in a higher power. Many Africans came to the shores not knowing where they were coming into, being forced into a system that was inhumane, to say the least. And so they grabbed onto what their ancestors taught them, and that is the belief in a higher power. In that belief, it is joy. It is a life in the hereafter, while at the exact same time, there were songs of resistance, songs of fighting, songs of perseverance. And all of those things, sometimes painful, are songs of joy. We define American culture. Black history is American history. There is no season in this culture without the Black experience. And so what we're celebrating, even with the book Color Purple, is beautiful literature. Something that has withstood the test of time, whether you're talking about the original movie, the Broadway play, or the current movie, which is a beautiful thing in terms of our experience from many perspectives, and that is joy.
Mm-hmm. And President Johnson, Phylicia, just went to song, and it made me immediately think about the song that your character Celie does with Nettie. I'm just wondering, because you played the young Celie, what do you think the young Celie's North Star was when it comes to helping her find her joy?
I think it's her sister. Yeah, I think, for what she'd been through at such a young age, the constant, the anchor, the one that's always there is her sister. And he made such a good point about the songs being also resistance, because I think as we're seeing, sometimes our own joy is seen as resistance to what we're supposed to be, to what people try to put upon us. And, when we went into that song, it definitely was a conversation of like, if people were to catch these two young girls dancing on a beach, they probably would have been severely punished. Like, how dare they have joy like that? And so it's really special that that piece exists. And it's through Nettie's viewpoint and how she sees her sister as this joyful survivor, someone who has so much more to give the world.
I understand why you got nominated for Outstanding Breakout Performance, because what I love what actors can do is to take such a really big, iconic role, make it their own, but still keep the constitution of the character there. And I thought you handled that perfectly.
Thank you.
How did you think through the nuance of that? What was your methodology going into it of representing the iconic nature of this role, but still making it your own, because you had a really fresh take on it?
Well, thank you. I was never going to be able to recreate it. The original portrayal existed in the 80s for that time period, from that person, from Miss Desretta Jackson, for a reason. And then I was chosen for a reason to usher it into a new generation. And I think really just what I did was I just allowed all the resources that I had to fuel me, whether it was the original book, research on Black women at that time, and then just looking at the Black women around me on set and tapping into my own inner child and everyone else's inner child. And I think that's exactly what, what she portrays in it is like a tapping back into who you are, your essence, before the rest of the stuff comes in, before the world gets a chance to, beat you down and have you downtrodden. And that's really what I tried to just portray.
You really talk about the passing of the torch. President Johnson, I'm curious to you and how you think about where we are in passing of the torch with the civil rights era of that time period versus where we are now with this new movement. Do you see successful transitions of power within the civil rights organizations? Do you see a successful passing of the torch, recognizing the Constitution of our great iconic heroes and civil rights leaders then to where we are now?
Well, oftentimes I try to break out of the false narrative of a leadership model. We've always had an intergenerational model that was consistent of the wisdom of our elders, energy of our young people, and the continuity of those in between. There's never been one person to lead the African American movement. There have been many leaders to push forth an African American movement. That's why nominating Bayard Rustin was really important, because he was underappreciated, under-recognized, but yet he was a profound leader, and he was underappreciated because he refused to suppress his identity for other people's comfort. He was a man of his time, and yet he was a man of the future, because he's like, I am who I am, and I'm not going to suppress it. Not recognizing Ella Baker, a woman leadership who actually left the NAACP because of the chauvinism within the organization, only to stay with the NAACP organizing young people because she's seen there was another direction or strategy that should be implemented that Thurgood Marshall and Roy Wilkins did not agree. So the conversation around passing of the time is a false narrative. The baton is to be held by everyone all the time, because there's never a movement that's successful that's one generational. It's always intergenerational.
Well, is this why you have such a diverse category? In particular, I'm looking at the category of Entertainer of the Year nominees. You have Coleman Domingo, you have Fantasia Barrino, you have Halle Bailey, you have Keke Palmer, and you have Usher. That is a mixed genre of artistry. Is that kind of in the reflection of the direction that NAACP is right now, and how you're looking at getting away from this false narrative?
Well, it is a reflection of the nominating committee that is a diverse body of individuals from across the country, half of which are in the entertainment industry, half of which are lay people, and they recognize the quality of the artistry of our community, whether it's through song, whether it's through short form movies, or we are a creative people. We should not create false buckets to put ourselves in when we are so expansive. It's an opportunity for us through this show to display how dynamic and how diverse we are as a community in the African diaspora, not African Americans, in the African diaspora. And that is joy. That is our success. And that's why the Image Awards are so important.
We've always had celebrities and entertainers be part of the movement, even in particular being funders of the movement. Why do you think that's important for this next generation to continue that trend of movement building and also to movement funding?
If the entertainment community embraced the wholeness of who they are, they have to be in the movement. There is no separation between my profession or my interests and the quality of life that I want to have and my community to have. And so whatever tools you bring to the table, we must all bring our tools to the table. I used to love the times I had to spend with Harry Belafonte, and he will come down to Mississippi. Long stories to talk about he felt obligated to do what he did because he was standing on a platform that so many other people created for him to do it. And so we are only able to walk through doors that we open, but we can't open the doors if everyone's hand is not on the knob to turn it.
What do you say to those entertainers who are apprehensive to jumping into the conversation, who are apprehensive to have their name part of the donor role? What do you say to those?
That falls in two spaces, right? I think Taraji B. Henson hit it on the nail. We assume even successful entertainers are doing financially well, and many of them are not doing as well as we assume. On the very other side of that, a selfish approach only create hardship for you long term, that when you need somebody to be there for you, no one is there because you wasn't there when people needed you. And so we have to be clear about how we as a community recognize the social construct of race and the barriers is put in front of us to impede our growth and development. And we all have a responsibility to push forward however we can push forward.
Phylicia, do you think that you doing this role within The Color Purple has strengthened your constitution of being parts of movements, understanding the role that film, entertainment properties can play in moderating discourse? Because this is a heavy role to take on out the gate.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would almost say I think I stepped into the role for that purpose. I'm in my family, I'm the outspoken one.
Wow.
Yes, and I don't think
that
it
was
is
a plot twist, young lady.
I do not think it is an accident that I have been given this platform. It's something I've always asked for. I've always been an advocate for people. Maybe it's just the older sister in me, or just understanding, my parents emigrated from the Democratic Republic of Congo, so I've seen their sacrifice firsthand, and it's always a question of how am I going to give back? How am I going to give back? And when it couldn't be financial, I was like, okay, I can give back by standing in my purpose, by being a leader, by making space for others. And it's something I've just always been very, very passionate about. I'm very excited.
Was that why you said early in the conversation just now, this role was meant for you? Mm-hmm. That's what you're alluding to.
Yeah.
I had wanted to unpack it then, but you were flowing so well. I like to go with energy. Take me wherever. People think I'm the host. My guests are actually the host. I just help moderate the energy. But that struck me.
Yeah.
I wonder what it was about her constitution that made her feel that the role of Celia was for her. But now understanding Constitution, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and you being an outspoken voice in your family.
Yeah, I always equate my grandmother, who recently passed away, to Celie. And, I came from different predominantly white institutions. So I have been, I've dealt with microaggressions and racism growing up. And I had to do my own kind of inner work to get to a place where I just learned to love me, every single part of me, even just owning the term, being Black in America. What does that look like for me? And I believe that I went through that journey to help others along the way, not only just, learn to love themselves, but see the power and the beauty and the excellence in the many, many ways that we're multifaceted and all that we can do when we just think beyond ourselves and the limitations that are put on us.
Is that why, hot take, is that why the word ugly was stripped down in this version of The Color Purple?
In part, yes, because we're looking at the film through Celia's imagination, and Celia would never think of herself as ugly unless it was put upon her. Mm-hmm. And I think that happens. I know that was my story. I didn't, you don't recognize that you look different from someone until you are told that, until you experience it. And then, of course, the downside is you experience the disenfranchisement in it. What does it feel like to be ugly and not beautiful? What is the difference? What are you receiving or not receiving because of that? And I think that's absolutely the point of why it's stripped down.
That was the biggest question I had watching the film. Was the editing of the word ugly, and some really key moments. I think I had that movie memorized at this point, because I was such a fan of the movie. And so when that word didn't come up in the moments I knew typically it would come up, I was like, I think that was a very intentional decision. President Johnson, I see you wanted to chime in.
The movie is based on a book. The book, every chapter is a series of letters that Celia is writing. And so she would not have referred to herself as ugly. And that's why it's really important that whether it's the original movie, this movie, or the play, it's all based on the genius of Alice Walker and her literary skills based on a bunch of stories she heard probably growing up in Alabama. And that's really important for us to recognize that however it was positioned in the original film in 1980, that's the stereotypes that we will put on ourselves, unfortunately. And I am glad that the writers of this movie created the space for Alice Walker's imagination of how Celia would have seen herself. The beauty of our community is as diverse as you can find, and we must embrace that beauty and not allow hurt people to hurt people by putting definitions on what beauty is. That's not true beauty.
Is that why you wear the color purple tie today, President Johnson?
Well,
is that just by chance?
You can say that. Could be Omega Psi Phi. Could be that too. It could be that too.
All right, I guess I got Omega in the building. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's right.
The other 1911.
Only 1911.
I'm a Kappa Alpha Psi. Shout out to the news.
But I like your purple you got on too, right?
We'll call this wine.
There you go.
Talk to me then about now that we're on Joy, Beauty, I love where we have now landed the plane. And talk to me then about the celebratory nature of the Image Awards and why it's so important that it stays on that upbeat and that uptick. Because every time I'm there or every time I'm watching it, I always feel this sense of joy, happiness, excitement.
Well, the show is called the Image Awards, the image of Black excellence. And we have been very intentional over the last 5 years to try to elevate the excellence that's on display. Frederick Douglass was the most photographed person during his time. Why? Because when he was alive, majority of Americans were illiterate. I'm talking about white Americans. And they would get their news and be informed by public policy through cartoon characters. And they would display Africans who were not citizens at the time as shiftless and lazy. And so he realized the power of art. How we are seen on the screen is how we are treated in public policy and in the streets. And so it is our job as an organization that's using art for our advocacy is to display the excellence that's in our community, the dynamic nature of who we are as a community, and how diverse we are in our storytellings. Because the Image Awards is about storytelling. Storytelling can show up in song, it can show up on the big screen, or it can show up on television, but all of it should be about empowering.
Just while you were talking, I'm just looking at the nominees for Outstanding Picture. I'm just looking at American Fiction has been nominated, Origin has been nominated, Rustin has been nominated, The Color Purple has been nominated, and They Clone Tyrone has been nominated. As I was looking at it, those are all very incredible films about storytelling. I think those narratives were so powerful in each film. And in the literal sense, American Fiction, and also too in the literal sense, Origin, right? And so I see that NAACP has a love for writing. Alice Walker, The Color Purple, and particularly They Clone Tyrone. Why do you think They Clone Tyrone got in there? It's one of my favorite movies of the year.
When you have such a diverse set of nominees, and we are very intentional, people nominate shows that they can relate to, that's coming out of their experience, or something they can envision for the future. And I think They Clone Tyrone fall in that category. I'm glad Origin was also nominated because what the author did in terms of establishing this racial construct, the social construct of race that really denotes power, domination, and control, not only in the United States, but around the globe, and how we must understand what we are up against because race is a tool. And then you go to The Color Purple that we were talking about. Rustin tells a true story of how the March on Washington came together. Not because an individual gave a speech. As you know, it was a great speech, but there was a lot of logistical genius there. And what's unique about this story for me is I know some of the young people then who are now elders now who was in the room with him. So watching it on a film and then listening to their account of it, I love that. We must tell more of these stories. I'm looking for the day we have the Ella Baker story.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the day we have a movie about Ida B. Wells. We've never told that story. Yeah. And there are so many other. James Cleveland. I'm looking for that story because we have such a rich history. Jules Nyerere, the head of Tanzania. We need to tell all of our stories.
Yeah. Phylicia, do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, he's talking about things and I'm like, okay, what did I not learn?
I saw you nodding and looking,
like, what did I not learn in school? What did I do? What am I interested in, like, finding out the truth of what happened? And I think, the truth sets you free and allows you to do so much more and know where you come from and know whose shoulders you're really standing on.
I mean, I feel like I can talk to you guys all day, but I feel like I need to let you guys go and go be great. And you need to celebrate this incredible nomination because, folks, they came in with an entourage. I mean, I interviewed so many hip-hop artists, R&B, pop stars, athletes, and I thought they rolled deep. The NAACP gets down. Their entourage is deep, and I want to go to lunch with them, too, as well. So that's why I'm actually about to wrap this up really quickly. But before I do, what are you most looking forward to in this moment at the NAACP Image Awards?
Just being in the room I've always dreamt about being in, being around some of my heroes, people who I've looked up to and looked at them and thought I can be there too because they are there. And some of them have already reached out to me, and just knowing that my work has resonated with them means the absolute world because I didn't necessarily dream it until I saw them.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so happy I had the chance to be in conversation with you. I think that I've always was curious of who you were. I think anyone who plays that role of Celie is it's a challenging role unto itself. And I just think that you brought this joyness, not joyness, this joy, this playfulness. I think you brought this incredible sense of naivete to the role. And I was always curious of who you were as a person. And I do agree. I think you were destined for this role. I look forward to seeing so much work from you and to see what you're going to do next. I believe that your roles will be very intentional. And I think you have a really strong constitution that backs you up. And you clearly now have an organization that has your back wholeheartedly. So congratulations to you and whatever you choose to do. And you always are welcome on the Mike Muse Show.
Thank you so much. I hope I lived up to your expectation.
and more.
Thank you.
And more. Audience, please make sure you tune in to the 55th Annual NAACP Image Awards, airing live Saturday, March 16th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on BET and CBS. And President Johnson, you're such a great orator. Do you have any closing words for us?
Well, voting is open for anyone to log in, www.naacpimageawards.net. Go online, vote for your favorite film, actor, actress. And Phylicia, you have now been shared the torch. It's not a passing of the torch. And we look forward to continuing to project positive images of who we are as a people and the beauty of Black women.
Thank you. I receive it with responsibility and purpose.
I love that.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
just so proud of you, President Johnson, for what you do. This work is not easy, but you do it so well, and you do it with such grace and dignity.
Thank you.
So thank you for all you do for our culture and our people. Ladies and gentlemen, what an incredible show we just had. Until next time, peace.